Hello, and welcome to the Get French Football News preview show for today, January 26, 2017. I'm Eric Devin, and I'm joined this evening by Nathan Staples, and in place of Adam White, fellow GFFN writer Tony Sarver. Welcome, Tony. We've recently signed his first professional deal, as it were. And we'll also be joined later by Portuguese football expert Tiago Estevao to speak about Paris Saint-Germain's newest signing. That's former Benfica winger Gonçalo Guedes. Remember to keep up to date with all the latest from around French football. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at GFFN and to visit our website at www.getfootballnewsfrance.com. Now, before we dig into the weekend's fixtures, we'll take a brief look back at the Coupe de la Ligue semifinals. And the two matches gave us no surprises, with PSG winning away at Bordeaux 4-1 and Monaco holding off Nancy at home 1-0. Now, gents, let's look at PSG's match with Bordeaux. The hosts got a great crowd, almost 30,000 people for the match, and really took it to PSG early on, but PSG's class eventually saw them prevail against but in the meantime, playing a very strong side that speaks volumes of how Unai Emery wants to focus on getting his first trophy. Now, Tony, I'll come to you. Was he right to play such a strong side ahead of Sunday's visit from Monaco, or should he have rotated the squad a bit more?
I think what we like to see and what happens is sometimes two different things. Preferably, I think he should have maybe mixed it up with the starting 11 a little bit, but you can't argue with the results, and he definitely to me, it was probably the best performance they've had so far.
All right. Nathan, what about Bordeaux? They played their strongest side, say perhaps the suspended Gaëtan Laborde. Gourvenec need to chase a cup final, or should the league be the focus with a tricky visit to Nancy this weekend?
It's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, the league's still important to Bordeaux, but I always think that teams in the middle of the pack in France need to also, if they can and they get the possibility to, chase a cup. Why not? They have one of those runs, especially a team that's not going to be worried about relegation really in Bordeaux, and they're not enormously far off the European places. Yes, and they're not in terrible form, although they're still a little bit inconsistent. But I thought it was worth the chance. I think when they got back into the game 1-1, you think, well, anything can happen at that point. It's a bit unfortunate that at the end it's heavily weighed on one side, but yeah, I thought Gourvenec did the right thing in trying to go for it and trying to see if he could maybe galvanise this Bordeaux team a little bit to try and do something a little bit different. And yeah, you can argue that the visit to Nancy might be more important, but at the same time, Nancy, the side that's going to really cause you a lot of problems, especially in the attacking areas anyway. I'm not so sure. I think he had every right to go for this and see if he could pull off a little bit of an upset. And I always think that's worth it, because when you get to a final, especially, it's such a rewarding experience. And being able to win silverware is the whole point of playing football for a lot of players. So, yeah, why not? I don't blame him for trying. And it's just a shame that they couldn't put more of a fight in the second half.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there. I think that Bordeaux have been looking better. Playing this 4-3-3, but they also, to be fair, haven't really been tested against a team of a higher quality. I mean, they had a scoreless draw against Nice before the break, but their last half dozen matches have not been against a very high quality of opposition. So if they were to lay a good claim to being able to continue this style against a very rampant PSG side, I think that would be confidence boost for them. But anyway, moving on to the other semifinal, that is Monaco hosting Nancy. Now, to be charitable, this wasn't exactly a thrilling encounter. Monaco once again rode their luck in a cup match. Leonardo Jardim came out after the match to emphasize its importance for the club, who haven't won a title since 2003. But considering the magnitude of the match the weekend, was a fairly strong side ideal, particularly given the issues that to me, Bakayoko and Radamel Falcao have had with recurrent injuries in the past. Fabinho and Djibril Sidibe were also at risk of suspension through yellow card accumulation for the Nice match. That's in a week from Sunday. Was it necessary to introduce or even use them? Tony, what are your thoughts on this?
I think you have to, just to kind of, it's a tight race right now. So anytime you can, kind of produce like that and kind of show the dominance, it's a luxury. So at that point, I think you take that slight gamble and go with the players he put out.
All right. For Nancy, Nathan, they once again spurned some lovely chances, but showed good organization and good spells of possession as well. Seeing how their relegation rivals, I'm thinking about Montpellier, Angers, Bastia, Dijon, Metz, Nantes, really most of the bottom half of the table. All these teams have strengthened in the window, but Nancy have not, even though they've brought in money from the sale of Clement Longley. Does this team need to follow suit, or does Correa have enough to avoid relegation with the squad he has at present?
I think it's an odd question. I know all the other teams you've mentioned, they have strengthened, and that's important. But it's always the question in France of can they, more than anything. I mean, the sale of Longley surely gives them a little bit of maneuverability in a sense of trying to find a couple of players that could improve this squad. I think that they clearly need to replace him. He has great potential, I think, and I think it's a good signing for Sevilla for the future, especially. But they're missing a few players from African Cup of Nations duty. Some of them might be turning around straight away because there's a few big sides already gone. So they might get a little bit stronger from that, and that will help. I don't think they've been too bad without them anyway. But I always think that in any club, if you're not strengthening, you're stagnating. So if they can, and they can find the right replacements, and they can find players that will improve their squad, I'm thinking maybe another striker if they can, because they've not scored loads of goals. They've not set a light in attacking displays. They've been relatively solid defensively on occasions. So if they can find someone that fits within their budget, fits within their style, if they can find a younger player, that's even better. But find someone that will help them continue to fight off relegation, because they're in a good place compared to a lot of their rivals now. If they can, yes. But if they feel they've got enough players there, if they feel they've got the strength of squad to challenge throughout, then why not? I mean, it's such a difficult issue of, is there the players out there that they think they can strengthen?
Nathan, are you there? Nathan, you're just breaking up a little bit. Can you hear me? All right, it seems like, Nathan, if you want to try rejoining us, we can go from there. And we'll move on now to our first match to preview. That is tomorrow. That is tomorrow's visit of Montpellier. Oh, Nathan, are you back with us?
Am I being able to be heard now?
Yes. Sorry. Yes, you were saying that they're in a good position, but that is messy.
And it's well, I was saying it was the window, really. The winter window is a tough time anyway. If they can find the right player, if they can strengthen right, then go for it. But like I say, they're compared to their rivals, at least at the moment, they are in a healthy position.
All right. Well, brief update on our prediction match. Even though Adam is not here, he did very well last week with 7 points, 2 correct scores, 1 correct result, compared to Nathan, who had no points, and myself, who had 4. So Adam does take the lead on 47. I'm on 45, and Nathan's on 38. So Tony, you'll be contributing score predictions as well. We can put those in Adam's column and see if you can help or hurt him.
I'll see what I could do. Do.
Please.
So moving on to our Ligue 1 preview, we'll start with tomorrow's visit from of Montpellier to Marseille. Tony, Patrice Evra is now a Marseille player. Left back has definitely been in a position of need for the club this season. But could he become an issue next season as he continues to age, or does he give the team what they need going forward?
Oh wow! At first, just to say, as a fan of Ligue 1, and it's definitely nice to have him back. And for what they need, I think he is exactly what they need. I definitely have heard some Juventus fans say that he's lost a step, and even if he has lost a step, what he brings to the table when it comes to to leadership and what he can still produce on the field is high quality football. And I think that's exactly what Marseille need right now. They need some sort of leader on the field. Sometimes, watching the match, they tend to get a little bogged down when things aren't going their way. And I think Evra is the kind of player that can keep them focused, kind of bring those big moments that he's had over his career to Marseille. Because at some points, they're going to be back in European football, and hopefully he can kind of give them that direction. I think he's exactly what Marseille needed at the position.
All right, Nathan, Montpellier have been awful on the road this season, but can the return of Riyad Boudebouz a little bit earlier than many had expected, and the inclusion of PSG loanee Jonathan Nkone help? Marseille are really reeling right now. They've conceded eight goals in their last, or 7 goals in their last 2 matches. Do they have enough to do the double over this Valenciennes?
It's a tough one, isn't it? Is I know Algeria are out now, but will Riyad Boudebouz be in the squad for Friday? Is it maybe a little bit too close? I've not heard anything. Is that something right now, Eric?
He's been training. He was the player who did the press conference yesterday or today. So it does appear that he'll be at least in the squad, if not in the 11.
Yeah, I was just thinking because Ivory Coast are out as well, and Eric Bailly's not played tonight, and he probably not playing at the weekend. So I wasn't certain if players were filtering back quickly enough or anything. But that's a massive boost if they're getting Boudebouz back, who I think has had an excellent first half of the season. He's incredibly creative. He adds so much to this Montpellier team. He's so important to them. I'm still surprised that other than maybe their early exit has contributed to that, but not a team hasn't looked at him and tried to bring him in during this winter window if they could. But I think him coming back into it will be absolutely perfect for them, especially losing. There'll be the return of Morgan Sanson, unlikely in this game from him playing from the opposite side, and him returning to that team will make a real difference, Boudebouz, because they have struggled in the last couple of games. They've struggled to really create much. They were poor against Metz, really. They weren't great against Dijon either. They were maybe a little bit unlucky not to win it. They had a couple of half decent chances near the end of the game, but it wasn't the best of games. They need someone like that really desperately. They need to get Mooney scoring goals again. They need to get back to what they did. But you can just looking at the results before the December break and starting out in January, it's not been an ideal start for them. Is this the perfect game for them? Maybe, because Marseille have lost those last 2 games. But also you think that now Marseille are outside of those 2 difficult fixtures they've had, now that they can start maybe getting on a roll, maybe starting to implement some of those new players into the squad, like Evra, like Sanson. It's a tough one to predict. I personally, at the moment, I don't think Montpellier are good enough. And there's issues behind the scenes as well. Surprise, the owner's not happy again. That sounds like a strange situation. It's not like he's a hothead, is it? But he's having a bit of a moan at Frédéric Hans, and the fans are backing the coach. I think they're in a little bit of a mess, and that might be more of a problem than it seems to be at the moment.
Yeah, Marseille have been active in the transfer window as well. Besides Ikone, they also brought in a defender from the Czech League, Czech International. So he's expected to be on the bench this tomorrow evening, and that'll give Montpellier the chance to have a full bench of outfield players for the first time in over a month. They've really been struggling with injuries and absences in the recent past. So let's get our predictions then. Nathan, yourself?
I'm going for 2-0 Marseille.
Okay. And Tony, for yourself?
I really just don't think Montpellier have the scoring capability, even with Marseille's defensive struggles. I'm going to go 1-0 Marseille.
Okay, I'll go with a 3-1 Marseille win. And let's move on now to Lyon and Lille. Now, Bruno Genesio still feels his team can win the title, according to quotes today. Tony, is there something to that, or are the top 3 just simply too far ahead for Lyon, even with that match in hand?
You know, if you would have asked me this a few weeks ago, I would have gave you a different answer. But I think with the turnout of Metz, of what happened there, I think it's very possible. I think Nice are losing traction. I think Lyon definitely can kind of gain that ground and maybe end up top 3. I think it's possible. I think it's still a very uphill battle, but I think it could be done. I may be speaking out of a little bit of a fan perspective there, but definitely from a football point of view, it can be done. They're close.
All right. Genesio did underline the point that they have 8 points more at this stage than they did last season when they did come second. So anything is possible. Title, who knows? But top 3 is certainly still in a possibility. Nathan, Genesio hasn't also ruled out Memphis Depay starting. How should Lyon set up if that is the case, both personnel-wise and tactically?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? You would think that someone would be dropping out of that starting lineup if he was to bring Depay in. You would probably guess at Maxwell Cornet, who didn't have the greatest of games against Caen. He was reasonably good against Marseille, in fairness to him, and you expect that from younger players. They aren't going to play blinding every single week, but maybe taking a hint from their formation against Marseille, where they did have sort of I would say it was almost like a 4-4-2 hybrid 4-2-4, where Valbuena and Cornet on the wings, Fekir and Lacazette as the front pair, really, and then Gonalon and Tolisso as those midfield central two. So if he does start, I think he starts in front of Maxwell Cornet. I think they switch. If they do that, I would switch Valbuena to the right and have him cutting inside and use Depay on the left, where he's shown for Manchester United and for PSV Eindhoven that's his preferred position, so he can cut out in on his right foot. But I think that formation really worked against Marseille, and I thought it was really successful to show that they can use those attacking talents that they've got. That's the problem they've had in the last couple of weeks. Where do you use Fekir? Do you use him out wide? Is it working as well? I think he had a slightly better game being more central, closer to Lacazette. I thought Lacazette was good because of that as well. So stick with what's working again. I think this might be the formation going forward. I think at the same time they were maybe forcing the 4-3-3 to try and fit in one of Ferry or Sergi Darder earlier in the season. So if Depay starts, same formation, replace Cornet.
I think I tend to have to agree with that. I think the 4-3-3 that Lyon had switched to seal the result with Toussaint coming on in place of Fekir looked good. But I think Fekir, we talk about his goal-scoring prowess and his ability to create for other players, but he's also a very powerfully built player. And I think a lot of times in that match, we saw him dropping deep to provide hold-up play and allowing Lacazette and Cornet to run beyond him. And obviously Depay, with his pace and dribbling ability, could also be the beneficiary of that. So I would have to wholeheartedly agree with you there, Nathan, that 4-4-2 does seem to work, provided Depay can be diligent tracking back. Tony, let's get your... Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, that might be the slight worry then.
Well, let's get your prediction then, Tony.
Wow. I'll go 2-0, Lyon.
Okay. I'll go for a 2-1 win for the hosts. And Nathan.
Yeah, Lille, I watched them against Saint-Etienne and they were pretty bad until... Surprise, surprise, Nicolas de Préville came on. They weren't great at the weekend either. They still need a couple of players. 3-0 Lyon.
Yeah, all right. Decisive win there. Now let's move on to our battle at the bottom. That's Angers playing host to Metz. And Nathan, Cheikh Diabate scored a brace last weekend and is definitely a proven performer in Ligue 1 into his time with Bordeaux. Is he enough to keep Metz up, or do we need to see more from particularly that defense?
I think you need a combination of both sometimes, but a goal scorer in any league is really, really important and can make such a difference. I mean, I'm looking through Metz's results at the moment, and there's been occasions where they've struggled to score, but there's not been many occasions where a lot of their games have been blowouts. So a lot of them 3-0, 2-0s. There's obviously the 7-0 against Metz. There's not many games where they kept it close. Even when they've scored, there's a 4-2 against Nice earlier this season. They need to shore it up at the back as well. So they need to show that they've got that solidity. They've at least kept 2 clean sheets in their last 2 games, which is a plus. Against Nice is no mean feat, and I thought they looked pretty decent in that game. They weren't really overly troubled. Against Montpellier, the same kind of thing. Their opponents struggled to create without Sanson and Boudebouz. So having someone like Diabate really helps, at least, because if you can keep teams out and you've got someone who can nick you a goal, then that's a great opportunity. And I think this Metz team is really set up with the wide players like Nguet and his name's escaping me at the moment.
Malassar, is that AFCON? He comes back.
He's coming back. There's Mole as well, isn't there? That was the one I was thinking of. Yeah, there was wider players that do like to get to sort of the byline with a big target man in the middle. It does sort of change your way of playing, and having someone like that to feed off us as well, because they're very quick, skillful players as well. I think it'll really add an extra dimension to Metz, not just from a goal scoring point of view, but from a link-up point of view as well. If Diabate can continue the form he's shown in that first game. I know while he was at Bordeaux, he was decent, but he would drift out. He would have spurts of good form, and then he would have 10 games without seeing a moment from him, really, which is why he left. So having someone like that, who's a proven player in Ligue 1, at least for scoring, he roughly averaged about 10 goals a season at least. So that will be a big plus if he can keep scoring and they can shore up that defence. That will make a huge difference to this team. But having a goal scorer now, although they might argue they had one in Erding, but he's, again, another bits and parts player. That might be the solution. Switch between the two each week, and then maybe the inconsistencies will level out somehow. But yeah, it's a good move anyway. I think he's a decent player in this league, and for someone like Metz, that's really important.
All right, now Tony, Angers have been on the receiving end of some horrific luck in their last two league matches with own goals, and Loic Perrin's handball last weekend. Is failure to get a win at home against Metz mean that they're becoming the favorite for relegation, or will the AFCON players coming back be enough? I should mention also that Angers have a decent stretch right now, but in March and April, they have a really vicious set of fixtures that sees them play the top 5 in the span of 7 matches. So things are going to get harder from here on out for the club.
It's definitely a rough it's a rough position to be in, but they definitely have a great coach. I think they have enough talent to stay out of relegation. It's just as of late, they just haven't had that cohesiveness that they've had in the past. They've been a very solid club, very technical, and I just don't see that right now. And it could be from injuries, it could be from having players out. I want to say they stay out of relegation. I don't think they're relegation favorites. I think they're better than a few teams. So I think at the end of the season, they'll be out of relegation zone.
All right, and then we'll get score predictions here. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Nathan?
1-0 Metz.
Okay.
Oh, man, Eric, you stole my prediction. Let's see. I'll go 2-1 Metz.
Okay. All right, moving on now to Nice hosting Guingamp. Nathan, Nice will be happy to welcome back Jean-Michel Seri, probably for next weekend. But is this particular match a must-win to keep pressure on PSG and Monaco ahead of their clash? Especially considering Nice are playing Monaco next weekend. Yes,
absolutely. I think that the run they're on at the moment, obviously the draw against Metz, and they lost at the weekend, didn't they? Against my mind's escaping me now.
Guingamp? They drew against Rennes.
Yes, that's it. They drew against Bastia. That was it. The crowd trouble one, wasn't it? Yes. There we go. I don't know why that faded from my memory then, but that's caused them to slip a little bit. And obviously Monaco have gone above them. Paris Saint-Germain are only a point behind them. They need to try and get back on the horse before that Monaco game, because it's a really, really crucial one for if they want to challenge for the title, they need to win that game. So they need to be as close to Monaco as they can be. It's maybe the only reason it wouldn't be a must-win is because obviously Monaco and PSG are playing each other, which is kind of a give me for Nice, that if they do lose this game or if they draw it, it's not the end of the world as it would have been if they weren't playing each other this weekend. For me personally, because they need that little bit of motivation, that little bit of form coming back to them. I think Seri coming back is a huge plus for them. They really need a bit more leadership in that middle of the midfield. I was really unimpressed really with their midfield at the weekend against Bastia. They were really indisciplined. I didn't think Remy Walter played particularly well, especially when he's supposed to be the shield. He was too far caught out being a more attacking player. We know Cogiello can't really be that man. Willian Cyprien kind of can be, but we much prefer him to be more further forward because he's so much more skillful. So I pin the blame, and maybe a little bit harshly, on Walter there to be the man that should be doing a more senior job. But having Seri back in there, that bit of experience, that know-how, that excellent play he's had at the start, this first half of the season at least, will be a major plus against the Monaco side as well. But for this weekend, Guingamp haven't exactly had it the best of times at the moment either. I mean, a draw and a loss. They lost to Lorient. They drew to Rennes in the derby last week. It's a tough one, isn't it? They're still missing a couple of players. Bice is still obviously out there. Ricardo Pereira is a big miss, but I liked his replacement. Again, his name escapes me. The young lad, Bernard. He was decent at the week. He was probably one of the only couple of players that I thought played well for Nice against Bastia. So it's still a big miss of Ricardo Pereira, though. But it's a really tough one. This one. It's a really tough one. But Nice, in my opinion, need to get back on the horse and do that as soon as you can.
No, I agree. I do think Nice do have that in their pocket, though, that they won't have European football. They won't have the Coupe de France. So as fixture congestion continues to plague the likes of Monaco and PSG in the coming month or so, that is not something that Nice will have to contend with. They don't have, for example, the midweek cup fixture next week. So some positives to be taken from Nice, but I think definitely I would agree with you there. I do think that Bernard played well. I think that he's not quite as pacey or as inventive as Pereira, but he's not as much of a drop-off as one might expect given the level of experience he has had compared to Pereira. Now, Tony, Munir Abadi has joined from Lille on a free, joined Nice on a free, essentially taking Mathieu Bodmer's place in the squad. Now, can he improve this team, or do you think Nice are suffering mentally from a lack of experience in midfield? An experienced player could help them with that?
It's rough to say. To me, it's not a earth-shattering move. I think he adds depth. I think that's always good. And maybe he somewhat of like an Ever situation where he adds something off, in practice and in the locker room. But I don't think he necessarily improves the squad as far as on-field play. I think they definitely have a lot of talent there. Experience is something that shows up during long stretches. So through a whole season, you come to find out that you're either going to get better or you're gonna have problems. And I think they'll get better. I think they will. It's just too much talent. Even though young talent, I think as the season goes along, they'll get it back together. They have a great coach. He's gonna get that cohesiveness that they've had early on. They'll get it back.
All right, so some cautious optimism there from both of you regarding Nice and their general fate this season. But let's be more specific. Speaking about this match, Nathan, what is your score prediction?
It's a really, really tough one because at the moment it's less Nice my worry, is Guingamp's my worry of them being a little bit of an unknown at the moment. I'm going to go for a 1-0 Nice win.
All right. And Tony, yourself?
I kind of have to agree. I'm just not sure what Guingamp's going to bring to the pitch. Maybe I'll go 1-1.
1-1. Okay. I am going to go for a 2-1 Guingamp win. I do think that the Guingamp have been perhaps a little bit unlucky in the last couple of weeks, but they really have a solid midfield, and I think it can more than physically match up to Nice. And Nice's midfield is so important to the way that they play, keeping the ball, keeping that rhythm of possession. But you get the physicality of the likes of Luka Do, Etienne Dido, especially Mustafa Diallo. So I really do think that power and physicality that Guingamp have in that midfield is more than a match, and that is more than a match for Nice. And I think it's going to be a really difficult encounter for Lucien Favre and his charges. Now, we are hoping to be joined by Tiago Estevao. He is a writer for Who Scored and Portugal. He's just a little bit behind, so we are going to start with our preview of PSG versus Monaco. Now, Nathan, looking at this match, Angel Di Maria was once again brilliant midweek, but Julian Draxler's been decent since his arrival. Now, Draxler is a doubt due to injury, but who would start for you if the German passes fit?
If he passes fit on current form, Draxler. I think that the way he's shown in the last two games shows where he fits into this side for me. That he's a good technical player. He's obviously got a lot of talent, and we know that, and he's starting to show it again in a bigger club, really. I'm not being convinced by Di Maria. I think yes, he was really good in midweek. Is that enough? I'm not so sure. I'm glad that the competition seems to be bringing the fight back into Di Maria, which is a real positive, of course. But in my opinion, I like how Draxler fits into this team. I like how he's link-up play with the midfield and the attack really benefit. That I think PSG really benefit from it. That he's more of a number 10 style than Di Maria is, and he's scored a wonderful goal against Rennes as well. I still can't get over that mini volley as well. So personally, I start him just on the knowledge that you go with the thing that's working, and especially in the league, Draxler's been working. If he's fit, play him. If not, it gives Di Maria a chance to maybe edge ahead of him. It maybe puts a little bit of pressure on Lucas as well to perform and make sure he's still at the top of the level, because now he knows that there's competition, because comfortably all three of them could switch sides if needs to be. They've got the quality to do that. So if he's fit, start Draxler. If he's not, then you've got an easy decision to make.
All right. I think, we speak about Angel Di Maria's big match experience, and it is interesting that we see Draxler as this sort of lock-picking character that may have usurped, obviously, someone with Champions League winning experience. It's an interesting dynamic there. So Tiago has joined us now. Tiago, welcome. Thanks for coming back.
Hey, guys.
You're here to speak to us about Gonçalo Guedes. He's a player who I personally have not seen play, and speaking to Nathan and Tony beforehand, I don't think any of us have. So maybe talk to us a little bit about what type of player he is. How does he fit in with the 4-3-3 that PSG play? Is he really going to challenge for playing time this year, or is he more one to, say, keep in their pocket for the future?
All right. So firstly, good night, guys. Hope you're all well. Hope everyone that's listening is having a fine one. So Gonçalo, especially since you guys haven't seen too much of him, he was brought in last season into the Benfica first team after a couple of seasons in their B team, because he's from their academy. And he was brought in more of as a winger, and he was given quite a bit of playtime for a kid, if you will, but he never really impressed me too much. And this season, he was changed to more of a second striker, because Benfica plays a 4-4-2, and last season he was being played in neither of the wings. And this season, mostly due to Jonas's absence and a couple more injuries here and there, and due to them having more options on the wings, they moved him to what I think is his preferred position. So a more central second forward position in this case, because he used to play with more heel striker slightly ahead of him. But is this very I don't know if you guys are gonna enjoy what I'm gonna say, but is this very average player. 30 million is an extreme overspend in my eyes, but I think there's this hype around not just Benfica youngsters, but Portuguese youngsters, that I think that especially Benfica could sell you a cat to play on the team for 30 million euros. But still, back to my point. Let's revert back to my point. Is this second striker who is decent? Don't get me wrong. I thought he was very poor last season, but this season I was quite impressed. He changed my mind completely, because he's a very decent player, but not more than that. He's not a great player on 1v1s. He's not too quick. He's not a slow guy by any means, but he's not too quick. He's a very direct player. As a second striker, he tends to take a lot of shots. He's really good at taking long shots, even finishing in the box. He's fine. If you give him some space to roam, he's okay. His first touch is very average. Sometimes leaves something to be desired. His passing is okay. His support is very good. The thing I like the most about him, besides his shooting abilities and the pure simplicity of being a super direct, going for goal type of player, is how much defensive support it gives you. Because for Benfica, it was in the Champions League, against Napoli away. He even scored in that match, I believe. And supports you a lot defensively. As soon as you lose the ball, he's a very good player to put in pressure. He always knows like where to be. Very average player. Like I don't think that in a couple of years PSG will make like 60 million on him by selling him to Real Madrid. That's average. So he's a solid player. He's a decent player, and he's gonna keep on growing for a little bit. But like, I don't even see him in the more or less not so distant future of the national team in Portugal. I don't see him there. So, but in the good news for you guys that like French football, I can be very grim. I'm sorry. No, but in the good aspect, in the good news, I mean Cavani has 20 goals, right?
Yeah.
And Lucas Moura is the second top scorer at PSG, and that's 6. So, yeah, right. At least in the league,
Something in that neighborhood, yes.
So that's a massive difference, right? And then there's like a bunch of people with 2, like mostly like defenders. So there's a clear need for like some support for Cavani, like even if it is like for him to be like a bench player or for him to like give him support. You guys are saying that PSG has been playing a 4-3-3. You guys don't think that's going to change anytime soon, right?
Well, Emery had experimented with the 4-2-3-1 earlier in the season, and he obviously preferred to play that system in Sevilla. Now, if you're saying he's could work off of a bigger striker and they could play 2 in midfield, that could work. I think the question would be, it wouldn't be. Oh, go ahead.
The thing is, like PSG's midfielders are way too good for you to just play with 2, right?
Yeah.
Like in Portugal, like we don't have such great issues of having like too many great players. But to me that's his best position. Like in a 4-4-2, that's where he like excels. Like as a second striker playing off of a big striker, like even somewhat of 4-2-3-1, if you will, is good. Like if you let him roam a little bit, but like I really hope that's why the first thing I said when I saw that he was going to PSG, besides well done Benfica, was I hope they watched him this season because that's where he was utilized the best, or like in his matches for Benfica's like B team or for the youth team. You know, the team that plays in the Youth Champions League. He even scored a bicycle kick against PSG. Funny enough, I saw a GIF the other day. A GIF, I don't know. Moving on. I hope they watched him this season because if they watched him just last season, Emery's going to end up playing him in one of the wings, and he just never impressed me too much playing on one of the wings, especially if they're like, you know, how Benfica here has to face a ton of like closed defenses with like a ton of players behind the ball. PSG is somewhat the same, right? In France against the mid-table teams or the lower table teams.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he has a lot of trouble if you don't give him space as a winger. And for PSG, like no one's gonna give him space. What's he gonna do? Like counter against like in the Champions League, maybe, but like other than that, in the league where he's gonna have more chances, I'm assuming he needs to be playing more of a central role. Because that's where he excels in my eyes.
All right, so a brutally honest appraisal from Tiago.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. You can follow Tiago on Twitter at Tiago. That's TIAGO ESTV. And he writes for Who Scored in Portugal. Thanks for joining us, Tiago. If perhaps we can meet you again if French and Portuguese teams are drawn together in European competition. Certainly a possibility.
Well, yeah. I mean, only if Porto or Benfica in the Champions League go through, right? Because in the Europa League, Portugal doesn't have representatives anymore this season. So.
Oh, is that right? I thought Sporting got third in that group.
No, they got last because they needed to tie in the last match, and they lost in Poland.
Oh. All right.
Because we like to disappoint people here. So there's that. So
my consolation.
So, let's hope that Porto goes through Juventus or something. Maybe. All
right. Well, thanks again, Tiago.
All right.
He's
no problem,
folks. If you're interested in Portuguese football, he's one of the best out there. Please do follow him on Portugal and Who Scored. Thanks again, Tiago.
Thank you. Cheers, man.
Thank you.
All right. So there's Tiago's none too subtle, none too praiseworthy view of Gonzalo Guedes. Again, this is a player who just turned 20 in November. He may continue to develop. I've seen other comparisons saying he's the quote-unquote new Ronaldo, being Cristiano Ronaldo, and that's obviously very high praise. But he's a player whose position and his abilities are still continuing to evolve. So time remains to be seen, but perhaps one for the future for PSG. Now, coming back onto the match at hand, that's the visit of Monaco on Sunday. Tony, Benjamin Mendy was last seen in a big match, self-destructing against Lyon. Can he be trusted in this match at left back, or should Touré keep his place at right back with Djibril Sidibe playing left back?
If it was any other matchup, I think maybe you give him one more just to just to prove a point. But for this match, I think you have to play Mendy. I think he, as far as being trustworthy, I definitely think he is. Just recalling the incident in context, there was just a really odd, awkward feeling to that match, and it just got out of hand. So I don't think that's an issue moving forward. He's an awesome player. I think he adds more to the position. I think he's more of an attacking threat. His pace is great. I think you got to play him versus PSG. I don't think there's another option but playing him.
I would tend to have to agree, but Mendy does have a somewhat specious history discipline-wise. But anyway, we'll see what happens. What Leonardo Jardim opts for come Sunday. Let's get our score predictions then, Tony. What about yourself?
This is a really tough one as well. I think we're gonna have some goals scored here. I really do. I say I'll go 3-2 PSG.
All right. I will go for a 1-1 draw. And Nathan, yourself?
3-1 Monaco.
3-1 Monaco at the Parc des Princes. A bold prediction from Nathan, who's maybe trying to make up some points there.
Yeah, I also want to mention before we end that I watched Monaco at the weekend and they were excellent. I love how they set up tactically. They set up almost it's almost in a hybrid formation in ways. It's almost two centre backs, two wing backs, two defensive midfielders, two inverted wingers, because with Boschilia in the side, he practically plays as a number 10, which helps Bernardo Silva as well, and then two up front, and it just worked to perfection against Lorient, and they were so brutal against Monaco on the counter that I just feel like Paris Saint-Germain may concede an air goal, chase the game a little bit, and allow Monaco to pick them off.
And do you know a team that covers more field than Monaco? I mean, wow, it's unreal.
It's great to watch. If you can catch a replay of the Lorient game, anyone who's listening, take a look, because it's really, really fantastic football.
Yeah, that's the first half, maybe more so than the second.
Yes,
but definitely true to that. Yeah, I mean, Monaco are definitely having some doubts injury-wise. PSG are having some doubts injury-wise as well. Maxwell versus Levin Kurzawa. Kurzawa was on the bench midweek, but he has been suffering from a groin issue throughout the past couple of weeks. He's elected to postpone surgery, so it does remain to be seen whether he'll be fit to go on Sunday. Maxwell versus Levin Kurzawa at left back, but it should be a highly entertaining match. Definitely the best that Ligue 1 has to offer at present. Apologies to Nice and Lyon and other teams, but I do think we can say that these teams on form are head and shoulders above anybody else in Ligue 1, and really it's probably the match to watch across all of Europe this weekend. Now, for Nathan Staples, Tony Sarver, and our guest Tiago Estevao, I've been Eric Devin, and that's all for now. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at GFFN, and for live coverage of matches at GFFN Match Zone as well. Thank you, and have a pleasant rest of your day.